We just saw Deadpool and Wolverine. Let's talk about the gist. It's also really late. It's almost 1 a.m. and I'm really sleepy.
Not sure how to talk about the movie without massive spoilers, so...
I'll give you... This is my gist. Obviously, I enjoyed it. Anybody who's like a general fan of Deadpool and Wolverine and Marvel movies is going to enjoy it.
If you've seen all the Marvel movies and TV shows, you'll especially enjoy it.
Yeah, obviously I enjoyed it. I feel like I'm going to probably go against you in this respect. I feel like I was more sensitive to this because I'm really sleepy. I don't think it was as good as Deadpool 1 and Deadpool 2. Like, I don't. I just actually don't. Like, of course it was lovely. I loved their little banter back and forth. I thought it was a little long. And, like, I just think the timeline, the universe timeline thing, without going too much into it, is so killed by now. And I know that they were, like, making a joke about it, like, beating a dead horse. But, like, you know, I think they relied a lot on, like, the fun cameos and, like, the different things like that. The thing where they arrived in, like, the void was, like, kind of, like, a little long and slow and exposition-y, in my opinion. But anyway, yes, go see it, obviously. But if I'm looking at it from an actual, like, structural standpoint, like, there was certain parts that I would, like, could feel myself getting kind of like, okay, here we go. And this is, you know, me looking more like bird's eye view. Like, even though we watch reviews and stuff, I'm not perfectly connected to, like, all of the, like, oh, that person, where, anyway, that's the gist. Give your gist. Are you done with your gist? James is an apologist. He'll,
Excuse me. It was fantastic. If you're a fan of Marvel stuff, then you'll absolutely love it. And it's a lot of fun.
It's super fun. You'll enjoy it. Definitely go see it when it's, like, a packed house. It's worth it just to see sexy-ass Hugh Jackman.
Yeah. And sexy-ass Rob Delaney. Whew.
Who's that?
Oh, come on, Carly.
The Phil guy?
Phil?
What was his name? Tom? Paul?
Jeez, now you made me forget.
The guy who was the mustache guy. Right?
Yeah, isn't it Pete? Isn't it Peter? It's Peter.
Is that who you're talking about?
Yeah, Rob Delaney.
As a joke. Okay, I get it. Okay. Now we might say things that are spoilers. So if you don't want any spoilers, don't listen further. Turn off the podcast.
Probably
Pause
has more
it.
to say,
Pause
but
it.
now with spoilers.
Pause it. I think the beginning part of the film, there were certain parts in the beginning that for me were the most solid. Like the cold open with, like, him and his corpse and the dance and bye 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 was, like, so fucking funny. The thing, even though we watched the recap, the thing with him and, like, in his life, I was, like, a little confused of where it was in the timeline.
Yeah, that's the one thing I was a little bit lost on, but I think it's as simple as we are watching a different Deadpool on a different Earth, on a different timeline. Mm-hmm. That's the point of view of the story. So 616 Deadpool, they show him, but then it cuts to a different Deadpool, and he has his own storyline, and that's who we're following. And I think the comment, I think it was just kind of plays into where we're at right now with the MCU, and how do you get the X-Men into the MCU, and it's got to be through the TVA and all the different timelines and stuff. Mm-hmm. But just acknowledging that, there still is the Deadpool that we know that's in the sacred timeline.
What's his name from Succession was so funny. Didn't you think he was great?
Who?
I don't know, the actor from Succession, who was the TVA main guy.
Oh, I didn't realize I don't know who that guy was. Paradox?
Yeah.
The main villain. Yeah, he's really funny.
Super great.
So basically, because they've already talked about, Deadpool being in upcoming movies, and that'll just be the same 616 Deadpool that we've seen in Deadpool 1 and Deadpool 2, but they're like, they're all the same Deadpool essentially. But
yeah, that was a little.
So that was a little bit weird.
That was
didn't
like
quite understand.
I felt like it could have. That's.
I was like, did Deadpool 616 like travel to a different timeline or something and live out his life? Like, I don't know. I didn't quite get it.
That's my point. Is
But
obviously I overall enjoyed it, but I couldn't. I just can't not see some of those things. There was things in the beginning that could have been much cleaner, in my opinion, in terms of like his inciting incident. And the thing with the wasteland, while I understand they wanted to like introduce certain like fan things, it felt like it like drug on a little long. And the thing with like introducing Professor Xavier's sister, there was just like a lot of exposition, you know what I mean? And
Yeah,
I feel like he could have done it in just a more clever, concise, or like a more funny way.
Okay. I mean, I thought they could have had more of Cassandra.
Is that her name?
Yes.
Okay. I really liked that she had to stick her hands into people's heads. That was super creepy. And
I thought they could have just explored kind of her.
Yeah, I feel like the villain, they could have made her.
Because to
stronger.
my knowledge, she dies in the womb before she's even formed as in the physical state. So Charles like basically kills her energy, if you will, or thinks he does. But she's so powerful, even from the beginning. I think she like stays with Charles or something, and then like moves herself to some cosmic plane and like rebuilds her own body out of like, galactic bullshit or something. So she's like a really cool villain.
Yeah.
But they didn't really have the time to explore who she is and where she came from and what she's capable of. I mean, they showed how powerful she is, but it's always tough with characters that are that powerful.
Yeah.
Especially if they're that evil, like, it's just kind of like, how do you keep them contained? Obviously, her motivation was like she just wanted minions and stuff, so she couldn't just go around killing everybody. But
and yeah, it felt like a waste of a really great villain. Like they could have had her why and her be a little bit more multidimensional, or leave something open-ended of like that she wasn't dead. Even though it's like with the timeline thing, I feel like they can just like.
Well, in theory, there's an infinite number of timelines with an infinite number of Earths, so there's an infinite number of Cassandra Novas for whatever reason.
No, I know.
That's just kind of like.
But like I said, that whole timeline thing.
That is the paradox, hence the character paradox.
Hence the character. I loved the millions of Deadpool. I thought that was really, really funny.
Yeah.
I loved them like fighting in the car, like anything that had like their type of banter. But yeah,
It's Greg Pool.
Okay.
I think that's what I'm
but like balls. Perfect example, like for me, like the very end when they're arm in arm and they're saving it together, they did like the little bit of the flashback and like a little bit of the voiceover, right? And the whole point that they were trying to make and the connection that they were creating in that moment, they tried to establish in the beginning how what's his name, Deadpool, had it that he didn't matter. Mm-hmm. And like Wolverine had it that he was a failure, which is like very, very similar. So it's almost like what they were trying to say at the very, very end when they were holding hands or whatever, they were, joined together, stabbing that thing, is that it's like, they got to finally fulfill their destiny and like heal that thing within each other, that they made a difference. Mm-hmm. But the payoff wasn't very satisfying because that wasn't it. I feel like it could have been created more effectively in the beginning to have had that payoff actually be like move me. Does that make sense? Because I get moved by everything. So there was like that moment when they like looked at each other and it's like there was like part of me that's like, I know I like should be like feeling it, and then I was like, why am I not? And this is just my reflection of that. So anyway, that's like way nuanced of examining something that shouldn't even need to be that examined that much because it's a freaking superhero movie. Like I said at the beginning, I enjoyed it. You should see it. But if you're looking for my 2 cents on what had it not really, really hit home for me perfectly, because I had really high hopes, then that's it. But I still enjoyed it. Anything else you want to say?
I think it delivered on everything that anyone could expect. So it's a very good movie. I think it's going to do very well. I'm predicting it's going to make $1 billion. That's my guess.
Okay, baby. You have to keep in mind, I just said it, in mind James's bias. James is the main demographic for this film. Let's be real. It was literally, I feel like it was
a blockbuster.
No, I know.
Everyone's
But it is
demographic.
true that like when we were in the theater, it was probably like a couple of me's and like the rest were just full of you's. Like most of the theater, when it was like laughing and people were saying stuff, it was like mostly men. It's not bad. I'm just saying like, I don't know why you're taking that personally.
Okay.
Okay. Good night, everybody. It's almost 1 a.m.